text subjects and their environment. Suddenly, processes as disparate as the creation of permanent last names, the standardization of weights and measures, the establishment of cadastral surveys and population registers, the invention of freehold tenure, the standardization of language and legal discourse, the design of cities and the organization of transportation seemed comprehensible as attempts at legibility and simplification. In each case, officials took exceptionally complex, illegible, and local social practices, such as land tenure customs or naming customs, and created a standard grid whereby it could be centrally recorded and monitored. The organization of the natural world was no exception. Agriculture is, after all, a radical reorganization and simplification of flora to suit man's goals. Whatever their other purposes, the designs of scientific forestry and agriculture, and the layouts of plantations, collective farms, ujamaa villages, and strategic hamlets, all seemed calculated to make the terrain, its products, and its workforce more legible, and hence manipulable, from above and from the center. A homely analogy from beekeeping may be helpful here. In pre-modern times, the gathering of honey was a difficult affair. Even if bees were housed in straw hives, harvesting the honey usually meant driving off the bees and often destroying the colony. The arrangement of brood chambers and honey cells followed complex patterns that varied from hive to hive, patterns that did not allow for neat extractions. The modern beehive, in contrast, is designed to solve the beekeeper's problem. With a device called a queen excluder, it separates the brood chambers below from the honey supplies above, preventing the queen from laying eggs above a certain level. Furthermore, the wax cells are arranged neatly in vertical frames, 9 or 10 to a box, which enable the easy extraction of honey, wax, and propolis. Extraction is made possible by observing bee space, the precise distance between the frames that the bees will leave open as passages, rather than bridging the frames by building intervening honeycomb. From the beekeeper's point of view, the modern hive is an orderly, legible hive, allowing the beekeeper to inspect the condition of the colony and the queen, judge its honey production by weight, enlarge or contract the size of the hive by standard units, move it to a new location, and above all, extract just enough honey in temperate climates to ensure that the colony will overwinter successfully. I do not wish to push the analogy further than it will go, but much of early modern European statecraft seemed similarly devoted to rationalizing and standardizing what was a social hieroglyph into a legible and administratively more convenient format. The social simplifications thus introduced not only permitted a more finely tuned system of taxation and conscription, but also greatly enhanced state capacity. They made possible quite discriminating interventions of every kind, such as public health measures, political surveillance, and relief for the poor. These state simplifications, the basic givens of modern statecraft, were, I began to realize, rather like abridged maps. They did not successfully represent the actual activity of the society they depicted, nor were they intended to. They represented only that slice of it that interested the official observer. They were, moreover, not just maps. Rather, they were maps that, when allied with state power, would enable much of the reality they depicted to be remade. Thus, a state cadastral map, created to designate taxable property holders, does not merely describe a system of land tenure. It creates such a system through its ability to give its categories the force of law. Much of the first chapter is intended to convey how thoroughly society and the environment has been refashioned by state maps of legibility. This view of early modern statecraft is not particularly original. Suitably modified, however, it can provide a distinctive optic through which a number of huge development fiascos in poorer third-world nations and Eastern Europe can be usefully viewed. But fiasco is too light-hearted a word for the disasters I have in mind. The Great Leap Forward in China, collectivization in Russia, and compulsory villagization in Tanzania, Mozambique, and Ethiopia are among the great human tragedies of the 20th century, in terms of both lives lost and lives irretrievably disrupted. At a less dramatic but far more common level, the history of Third World development is littered with the debris of huge